The Constitution will not be saved in Washington.
We ask members of the First Presidency to please arise. It is proposed that the First Presidency sustain Russell Marion Nelson as prophet, seer, and revelator, and President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
My dear brothers and sisters, how grateful I am for the marvelous messages of this conference, and for my privilege to speak with you now. For the more than 36 years I've been an apostle, the doctrine of the gathering of Israel has captured my attention. Everything about it has intrigued me. including the ministries and names of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, their lives and their wives, the covenant God made with them and extended through their lineage, the dispersion of the 12 tribes, and the numerous prophecies about the gathering in our day. I have studied the gathering, prayed about it, feasted upon every related scripture, and asked the Lord to increase my understanding. So imagine my delight when I was led recently to a new insight. With the help of 2 Hebrew scholars, I learned that one of the Hebraic meanings of the word Israel is let God prevail.
Travis went good zone. So, with this morning's video, those of you with the keys of seership should have seen what's coming. We get to show you my authority about the scattering and gathering of the Mormons, House of Israel. And this is where Nelson bows out stage left and runs for the hills as the fraud he is. So we start with the Egyptians. Book of Mormon. You should have caught on to this. 1 Nephi, chapter 1, verse 2. The learning of the Jews' pre-Babylonian captivity, language of the Egyptians. And I've done the videos over the years, and I've mocked Nelson when he claimed he knew everything about the scattering and gathering of Israel, and then tells us he's got the wrong keys, botches the translation. Oh my God, just say you don't know. Just confess you don't have the keys, you're not a translator, you don't know. And yet threw Avraham Gileadi under the bus after the church removed his footnotes and even excommunicated him and fired him. You're still going to blame him, are you? Because he came crawling back on his hands and knees, begging to lose his honor and integrity. Okay, whatever. This is my ball court, and nobody else has game. No scholar in the world has game. I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. Which led to my decipherment of the learning of the Egyptians and the language of the Egyptians. And if that sounds a weird wording, because you don't know the Book of Mormon that I just quoted, and you're going, Egyptologists have already deciphered Egyptian, Travis. No, they deciphered the learning of the Greeks' language of the Egyptians from the Rosetta Stone. That's as far as they know. They don't know anymore. Again, it's my ball court. It is my ball. And if you don't like it, take your ball and go home. All right, the Egyptians. From this morning's video, I went over it, we're going over it again. And so, possibly in greater detail and leaving out the commentary. We'll try to do that. I've separated it out so that I won't do that. So we got to do it from memory, associative memory. All right, so Osiris is restored back after the first death. And Set finds out about it. Set is king. He had usurped the kingdom from his brother after the first murder. And Scar descended the Pride Lands into utter ruin. And so then he hears that Mufasa, I'm already throwing in commentary because I didn't give you the Lion King version on these notes. He finds out that Osiris is alive. He's been returned to Egypt. He's alive. And so, obviously, Osiris is a threat to his usurped kingdom. Usurped Jacob. Insurrectioned. And so, he comes up to him and cuts up his body into 14 pieces. Yes, to repeat, other sources say 42 for the provinces of Egypt at the particular time when the author was writing it. But there were not 42 pieces in the beginning. That was a later development when those authors wrote it. So originally 14. And through the dissected parts of his body into the Nile River, thus the blood red Nile, the red waters of the Nile. And then it travels up northward into the Delta, into the Mediterranean, out into the Atlantic, and around the world. Scattered around the world. And Isis, his wife, which in Egyptian is the left eye, religion, moon, church, left eye, women, sends out servants to gather the scattered body parts of Osiris back to Heliopolis, the sun city. Thus Heliopolis, Helio, Sunopolis city. There's some Greek for you. And she assembles the body parts, and there's a piece missing. And yeah, it's the phallus, the part that's necessary for the fruit of the loins from the seed to be happening. So Isis needs to have posterity. And so she makes one, turns into a bird, hovers over his body, and is impregnated with the Christ of the Egyptians, Horus. And so Set finds out. He's furious. And so he wants to destroy Isis with the child who is a threat to his authority. He only has titles, has no keys, he usurped it. So badly want to get to the other stuff. And so he claims titles and enforces his dominion upon the people, stealing their tithing money. Obey me! And so, yeah, he sends his armies, minions, to go and murder Isis and the child in the womb, the fetus. And so she has to flee into the wilderness. And in the wilderness, she hides out and raises the child, gives birth, raises the child in the west, in the desert, and teaches him all about the religion and thought, which transliterated into Paleo-Hebrew is David. Teaches him all about governing the kingdom. So he's being taught both eyes, the right eye for government, male, the sun, left eye, religion, church, woman. And the two eyes together are the Egyptian word translated as seer, which is PTR in Egyptian, in the learning of the Greeks, language of the Egyptians. And so Egyptologists, particularly from the UK, put in E's so that they can pronounce it, because when you tell somebody that you're a translator having deciphered an ancient language, they say, "Can you speak it?" And so you make it up and put in E's. And then you say stuff, and they go, "Wow, I have no idea what you said, but that's cool." It's a visionary language. You're supposed to look at it and get visions for the interpretation thereof. I have to do All right, so there it is, the scattering and the gathering of the body of Osiris. And crap, we have to do a sacrament thing too. All right, so sacrament. Members of the congregation are scattered. They are gathered to the church. And the husbands and wives partake of the broken body and the blood of the Christ. Internally take it in. Thus, the husband and the wife are the ones who have sex and produce the babies. For the future coming of the Christ who would restore the Christ who was murdered. Okay? Sacrament. Got that out of the way. All right, now the Bible. We start with Genesis chapter 34. Shechem defiles Dinah. Hivites seek to arrange marriage with Jacob's family. Many, being circumcised, are slain by Simeon and Levi. Jacob reproves them. That's Bruce R. McConkie who put that summary as literal history. It's not literal history. That was Constantine with the first creed of Christianity, turning the Jewish prophecies and revelations into literal history, remember? So, you will recognize that Dinah is missing something if he is going to have seed to produce babies. Oh wait, it's female, not male. Ta-da! And so Dinah is the female form of Dan, female judge. Thus, in the book of Judges, there are female judges, not just male judges. So this is perfectly in harmony with the learning of the Jews. And Dinah, obtain that picture. Where's you be? Found a Christian Bible thing for kids that did an excellent job telling us which of the house of Israel with Dinah and the order that they were in. And so, yeah, you got the heavenly eyes, but oh, that size, Leah. 7 brides, 7 brothers. You have Reuben, who's first, and then Simeon, who's going to play a part in this story. And I created a pretty picture for you, brand new. So again, line upon line, translation upon translation, here a little, there a little for you. Because having deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, yeah, I can go through and do the whole Bible. But it's going to take a long time, so yeah, I do it when I see it. Get inspired, and I share it with you. Give you the keys of translator, but Kwaku threw it away. Refuses to leave the church that he knows is now racist. Lost his honor and integrity, just like Avraham Gileadi did. And so number 3 is Levi. Number 4 is Judah, Utah, phonetically the same. Number 5 comes from Leah's concubine, servant. Number 5 is Dan, and 6 is Naphtali. Then 7, we go to Rachel's concubine, servant. Number 7 is Gad. Number 8 is Osiris. And then we go back to Leah. 9 is Issachar. 10 is Zebulon. And 11, which, because it's a Christian religion, they have to have patriarchal abuse over women, and so Dinah is not considered a number, but puts in parentheses, then Dinah. So she's technically number 11 child. And then, finally, Rachel has number 12, not number 11, Joseph Smith Jr., Messiah ben Joseph. Nephi chapter 3. And then 12, Ben Amen. Well, not the sun god at noonday Amen, it's a different spelling. It's the A rather than the universal symbol of the sun. So don't be confused, not the same. Alrighty, so the 13 tribes of Israel. And so where's the 14th come from? Right? Because you remember I said 14 for the Egyptians, and the 1 is the daughter because of the missing phallus. How many did I get up to in the count of phalli in facsimile number 2? Was it 17, 18, 19? There's a lot of them there. They're all in your face. And so, yeah, Joseph, the birthright blessing son, gets a double portion, Ephraim and Manasseh. So Ephraim and Manasseh take the place of Joseph, and thus you get the 13 boys of Jacob and Dinah for number 14. Okay? And Dinah is the female form of Dan, who is number 5 of Bilhah. Alright, so where did we leave off here? And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. This is where we victim blame her and slut shame her. It's her fault for being raped. That's what white supremacist Christian nationalists do. This is where they got it from. This is why they're abominable. And when Shechem, the son of Hamor the Hivite, not of the covenant path, not the chosen ones, this is the heathens. She strayed, wandered off, was not wearing her underwear, wasn't reading, wasn't praying, wasn't going to... I got that comment just the other day after I had done the video where I had talked about the bullying of Mormons. Unbelievable. Mormons continually prove they are wicked. You call a Mormon a wicked and they prove it to you. Just unbelievable. Mormons cannot be good. They can't do it. I'm waiting for a Mormon to be good, and it just can't happen. It's that DNA from the Danites. Oh, we still have yet to do that one. Danites? Dan. Ta-da. And thus, Dinah, Church of Dan, Danites. Ta-da! I'm skipping ahead. Prince of the country. You are a prince before you become a king. Father father becomes the son, son becomes the father, Superman. And so, yeah, he's the prince, the heir to the throne of the Hivites in this story. Okay? But it's the anti-Mormon, antichrist, apostate Korahors. Because you look a little concerned. Prince Humperdinck doesn't die. What do you mean he doesn't die? What kind of story is this? So he sees her. Dinah is fine. She's a cute little honey bunny of Israel. And he took her and lay with her and defiled her. Notice they didn't use know her. It's the same thing. Why couldn't they? I just don't understand. That Jewish author. And his soul clave unto Dinah. Just like the beginning. Man shall leave his parents and cleave unto his spouse, and they shall become one, have babies. Men are that they may have orgasm with babies. Women too. Kind of helps. Got to keep her happy. And so, yeah, Dinah is now going to get pregnant out of the covenant. An interreligious consummation in which Brigham Young had the death penalty for any such woman who would defile herself in such a manner. But I'm skipping ahead. I want to get to it. And he loved the damsel. She's no longer a damsel. You defiled her. And spake kindly unto the damsel. So yeah, isn't that great? He raped you and now he's trying to be nice. But yeah, that's a guy, white supremacist Christian nationalist thing. And nobody is taught proper sex ed. And so, the ADL, if you watched the video or if you got to it, I think it was a 3-hour tour one, so I don't think you heard it. The ADL is filled with Muslims, and so they purposely left out the religious component of extremism in regards to the treatment of women. And Shechem spake unto his father Hamor, saying, Get me this damsel to wife. Oh, you weren't going to marry her, were you? You raped her, gave her flowers and chocolates and little teddy bears, and had no intention of marrying her until she accepted them, I guess. Notice she didn't run away, go back to her family. She stayed. And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter. Now his sons were with his cattle, herding the Mormons down the streets of Salt Lake City for the days of 47 cattle run, cash cow run. And Jacob held his peace. I couldn't. I just keep letting them slip. Until they were come. And Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out unto Jacob to commune with him. And the sons of Jacob came out of the field when they had heard it, and the men were grieved, and they were very wroth, because he had wrought folly in Israel. The 12 apostles and the president of the church are upset that the Mormons are having sex with people outside of the church when they are promised to Mormon males with the prostitution price of tithing. I just can't hold my tongue. And Hamor communed with them, saying, "The soul of my son Shechem longeth for your daughter. I pray you give her him to wife, and make ye marriages with us." Thus why Babylon is called the whore. "And give your daughters unto us, and take our daughters unto you." So we're just like you, just like Muslims. We're just like Muslims. We'll join our religions together and be one. And then we can nuke those Israelis and get them out of the Islamic land, which belongs to Israel, from the little hamlet called Salem, from pre-1500 BCE, when David Moses III, during Armageddon against the Hittites, the valley of Har Megiddo, took a vacation on the hill of Salem. And yeah, according to a Bible story, there was infidelity and murder and death of the firstborn, and then came the king, Solomon, and at the end would be king of peace. Solomon, the first king, once they built a palace unto the house of David Moses III of the 18th dynasty Egyptians, and a temple that would be destroyed by the Babylonians, which depends on when it was first built. But yeah, it was after that 1450 BCE event. And so thus was used by John the Revelator to talk about the latter days. Because the man like Moses is the man like David Moses of the latter days, to restore the 18th dynasty. And so we'll just summarize the rest of it here. They tell Hamor, "You're uncircumcised." Now again, this is for babies when they're born for hygiene purposes, but originated with the Egyptians for symbolic purposes, having to do with the obelisk and its erection, and seed and blood of the Nile, and babies, House of Israel. And so yeah, I could have kept going on the Egyptian part, just kept rambling off for volumes of books to explain it all for you. But without my little commentaries, you would have no clue how to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Don't you just love my commentaries? Aren't they great? And so, they agree. They gotta have to. It's the prince. Crap! The prince gets horny and we suffer for it. So yeah, And so, the third day, there it is, 3 days of darkness. Symbolically here. When they were sore, that Simeon and Levi did some chop suey, slew them, all the males slain, and they slew Hamor and Shechem, and rescued Dinah. And the sons of Jacob came upon the slain and spoiled the city, because they had defiled their sister. And they took their sheep and their oxen and the cows, transported them to America, so the Book of Mormon can be literal history true. And their asses, and that which was in the city, and that which was in the field, and all their wealth, and all their little ones, and their wives took they captive, and spoiled even all that was in the house. And Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have troubled me to make me to stink among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites." Wah. And I, being few in number, they shall gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I shall be destroyed, I and my house. So yes, even with David Moses and Armageddon 1, you see the Armageddon 2 with this as well. Scattering, gathering. And they said, should he deal with our sister as with an harlot? And thus the church is often referred to as the Great and Abominable Church, the whore of Babylon, a harlot. Okay? Alright, so then there's Genesis 49, where the blessings are given out. Verse 5, Simeon and Levi are brethren. Wow, it took a blessing to figure that one out, huh, Jacob? Instruments of cruelty are in their habitation. Yeah, it's kind of cruel to slice and dice a man when he's sore. O my soul, come not thou into their secret combination, unto their assembly mine honor. Be not thou united, for in their anger they slew a man. So they're not getting punished for Shechem and the whole kingdom of Hamor. Something else they did? Well, there's 6c, and it refers to, nope, the Shechemites. It's unclear as to whether or not I changed that. We're not going to spend the time to find out if I changed that. And in their self-will they dig down a wall. And cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Yachab, and scatter them in Israel. So, They got punished, they're naughty boys, and thus they lost their birthright blessing. Because Leah was first to get married to Jacob. Thus, Reuben is the birthright blessing's son. But he was naughty too, and so was Judah. Thus, Joseph. Okay, so I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know. Jeremiah 23. Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheeple of my people, saith the Lord. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God of Israel against the pastors that feed my people. You have scattered my flock and driven them away, and have not visited them. Behold, I will visit upon you the evil of your doing, saith the Lord. And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all countries whither I have driven them, and I will bring them again to their folds, and they shall be fruitful. I wonder how humans are able to be fruitful and increase. And I will set up shepherds over them, and will feed them. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise in resurrection unto David a righteous first death of Osiris branch, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days, Utah shall be saved, phonetically the same as Judah, remember? And Israel, there's just so much for you to memorize. I have associative memory, so I see that and boom, instantly I get a vision in my mind. Oh, Utah. Sucks to be you, doesn't it? Israel shall dwell safely. And this is his name whereby he shall be called, the Lord our Zadok. Therefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that they shall no more say, Moses liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt, from Deuteronomy, the law of the Jews, talking about a man like Moses. But the Lord liveth, which brought up and which led the seed of the house of Israel out of the north country, and from all countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in Zion. After Armageddon, Bloodbath 2024. So David Moses there? Alright. And so, interestingly, we'll go to Revelation first. In Revelation chapter 7, there's the latter days of the restoration, the resurrection in Zion. Bruce R. McConkie thinks it's something else. sees in the sixth seal the restoration of the gospel foreseen, the sealing of 144,000 virgin men, and the host of the exalted from all nations. No, this is the gathering, Bruce. Come on. Be honest with Mormons. You don't have the keys. You don't have the gifts. Just confess. Just say you don't know. Can't do it, can you? You have to fool the Mormons to keep getting their money, because Heber J. Grant, 1923, turned Mormons into cash cows. And so, in verse 5, you see the starting of the list. But in verse 6, of the tribe of Manasseh. Who's that? That's the Greek of the Hebrew Manasseh. One of the children of Joseph. Joseph. Ephraim and Manasseh. And so Ephraim usurped the birthright and blessing from Manasseh, but Ephraim is not listed here. What are the majority of Mormons and their patriarchal blessings? Especially the white ones from Europe, of whom were converted by the Danites? Ephraim! And so who's missing? Who did Manasseh replace? Dan. Ephraim and Dan are missing. And I can't keep shut. I can't wait. Plus, since I don't really have it written out in a script form, it's kind of helpful for me to let it out, just in case I don't bring it up at the end, and then most likely not, but we'll see. Okay? Dun, 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 dun. It's amazing how everybody knew but Mormons. Okay. Judges, chapter 13. You need to go to the beginning, where Manoah, the high priest of Noah, or the high priest Noah, is talked about. So we got to go back. Here we go. Yeah. And the children of Israel, Judges is not Dan. The Jewish author who wrote the different stories, compiling them together for the book of Judges, did not use Dan as the Hebrew name for Judges. It's a different name for Judges. But this particular story, chapter 13 to 16. And the children of Israel did evil again in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord delivered them into the hand of the Philistines 40 years. And there was a certain man of Zorah, of the family of the Danites, whose name was Manoah. And his wife was barren. Hey, that sounds familiar. Lots of Jewish women seem to be barren, and then have sex with some other guy who happens to be a king or pharaoh, and then she gets pregnant. Insurrection for the resurrection of the rising of the original. No, erection, that's the shun, it's not the same root. Okay? And so, they have a child, and called his name Jesus. Even though the prophecy of Isaiah says you're supposed to name him Emmanuel, sun god at noonday of the Egyptians. Nope, they call him Samson. Shemesh, sun. And at the end, just like Solomon, king. Sun king. Not sun child if you look up Google. God. So yeah, Samson is a Danite. Samson is the Christ. Samson is Emmanuel. He's the Sun King. So the deaths that Samson is involved with, hey, there's a precise date because it's a solar eclipse. And they tell you which constellation the solar eclipse occurs. And the solar eclipses happen to cast a shadow on the earth so that you know the location of the revelation that the author is giving you. The prophecy and revelation. The prediction of the future and the day and the hour. So, lion is first killed by the Sun King. Solar eclipse in Leo, the lion, at the star Regulus on the 21st of August, 2017. Monson's birthday and the ancient Egyptian religious calendar New Year, when in the story about Horus, when he gets to Egypt to resurrect the throne usurped by Set, the brother of Osiris, who is the father of Horus, Set plucks out the eye of Horus, the right eye, solar eclipse, at the very beginning, the New Year. I went over the book. It's one of these books. I don't think it could be in this box, but one of those boxes has my Egyptian calendar series for the latter days. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has been trying to destroy it so that you won't know. And so, yeah, right there. And then you see the prophecy that your Christ Mormons will be wed to a woman of the Great and Abominable Church. Dinah goes to the Great and Abominable Church, has sex. Samson, same thing, goes to the Philistines, has a cute little honey bunny, and he's married at the Salt Lake Temple, room number 13, and has his wedding supper feast at the Lion House next to the Beehive House. And she cuts his hair, betrays him to the Philistine, evil, apostate, anti-Mormon, antichrist Mormons. And punishments ensue. That gets him into this apartment. Can't a woman just love me for me? Can't it be done? Ready? So there's the Bible version, and yeah, there's a whole ton more stuff. Ezekiel has a whole bunch of stuff as well. All right, now the Book of Mormon version. First Nephi, chapter 10, verses 11 to 14. And it came to pass, after my father Lehi, Jawbone, had spoken, hey, that's what you do with your jawbone. Amazing. These words he spake unto my brethren concerning the gospel which should be preached among the Jews. Is this literal history, Mormons? Is it? Want to think about that. If you call it literal history, you're going to have to explain the cows. You can't lie. You can't deny science. You can't deny logic. You can't use ad hominem arguments to abuse people if they don't believe you. Are you sure you want to be literal historians of Christianity, of Constantine? Just changing the nature and character to non-Trinitarian, and now it's all better. Are you sure you want to do that? Danites. And also concerning the dwindling of the Jews in unbelief. Yeah, oops. That's what a Mormon is, isn't it? So are we sure it's Jews here? and after they had slain the Messiah ben Joseph, Osiris. Because it's not literal history. Remember 2 Nephi chapter 3, verse 5. See, Joseph Smith Sr. rewrote this. Joseph Smith Sr. knows what he's doing when he selects his son Junior to start the church, to start the temple, to have sacrament for the couples who get married. And he knows that it has to be through Hiram for Messiah ben David Moses. So yeah, he must have been struggling with this. But we're not there yet. That's next. But yeah, that's a tough one. As I just did the video the other day, again, reminding everybody about Hiram Smith being murdered, where his son got indoctrinated into pure evil and gave us the clues of the evil, great and abominable church. But yeah, that's just awful. But yeah, his wife and child, 2 sons technically, had to go with the great and abominable church so that prophecy could be fulfilled. None of the other Smiths went. At least the ones who were still alive after the poisoning deaths. Who should come, and after he had been slain, he should rise from the dead. Yeah, it's resurrection, the restoration of Messiah ben David Moses, and should make himself manifest unto, now they're called Gentiles. See, he's doing a dualism here. He's referring to Constantine, calling the Bible stories literal history, so that you, if you're going to think Christian, are going to get confused as to what's going on here, and you're not going to understand it. But you're going to go, oh, right, yeah, the Jews are evil. They killed Jesus. Having no clue that it was your ancestors who murdered Joseph and Hiram. Shot in the back, very sad. Also spoke concerning the house of Israel, that they should be compared like unto an olive tree. Jacob chapter 5. And the church's video about that left out the burning, whose branches should be broken off and should be scattered upon all the face of the earth. Wherefore he said, it must needs be that we should be led with one accord into Zion, land of promise, unto the fulfilling of the words of the Lord, that we should be scattered upon the face of the land. And after the house of Israel should be scattered, they should be gathered together again. With whose keys? Moses' keys. Not Peter, James, and John. Or in fine, after the Gentiles have received the fullness of the gospel, the natural branches of the olive tree, or the remnants of the house of Israel, should be grafted in, or come to the knowledge of the true Messiah, who would do the gathering in the latter days. Messiah ben David Moses. And so then we can do some Doctrine and Covenant stuff, because technically this is the LDS version, scripture version, rather than the church history version, which is next. So, section 107. Verse 91. And the duty of the office of the president, the duty of the president of the office of the high priesthood is to preside over the whole church and to be like unto David Moses, the Christ. Thus Joseph was Messiah, Christ, Ben Joseph. Behold, here is wisdom, to be a seer, revelator, translator, and prophet. See, translator is not revelator. Real easy, and yet they purposely think you're dumb. Having all the gifts that he bestows upon the head of the church. So yes, you're looking for Messiah Ben David Moses. He will have those gifts, and you can judge him by your gifts, just like you can judge Nelson for not having them. Real easy, and Mormons still, we love worshiping Lucifer. We're going to call him Jesus, though. God. Evil. Emma evil. I am Mormon. Section 110, on the third day of Passover, Elijah also comes suddenly to his temple. From Malachi. Verse 11, after this vision closed. Oh, it's a vision, it's not literal history. Got it. Do we? Do you? When Hinckley said it has to be literal history or this work is a fraud, what did you think he meant? He was confessing. The heavens were opened again unto us, and Moses appeared before us. David Moses, the third. Literal history, right? Not a vision? David Moses, and committed unto us the keys of the gathering of Israel. And this is where they fool you. Oh, Peter, James, and John, that's the keys of the kingdom. Moses is for missionary work. No! They purposely tell you, stay in your own land, stay scattered, do not gather. Even though it was last year when Bednar, who was this year's leader of the Mormon Cash Cow Parade, came out with a church news article telling Mormons to gather to Zion. And I did my church news video on it. And the next day, no, stay where you are. Oh my God, just hilarious. So there it is. Same pattern match. Keys of the gathering of Israel from the four parts of the earth, and the leading of the 10 tribes from the land of the north. And so you'd expect to see Jeremiah 23 in the footnotes for 11. Right, Bruce? So 11a, TG vision. 11b, Ezekiel 1:1. 11C, Matthew 17:3, Doctrine and Covenants 133:55. 11D, Doctrine and Covenants 113:6. TG, Priesthood, Keys of. 11E, 1 Nephi 22:12, parentheses 10-12. Jacob 6:2, Doctrine and Covenants 29:7, Doctrine and Covenants 45:43, Doctrine and Covenants 127:6, TG, Israel, Gathering of. 11F, Doctrine and Covenants 133:26, TG, Israel, 10 lost tribes of. Nope. They don't want you to know. Alright. And then the final one, and then we can get to the good stuff that I've been teasing you. Quit teasing us. I don't like your tone. You're ugly. Your room's a mess. You need to be drugged by a psychologist so that you can die. I had another guy of that, and I did that in a 3-hour tour comment reply video, didn't I? Dear God, what an abusive person. Bullying 101. And yeah, if you don't get it, the Democrats are all about getting criminals to psychologists to be a cash cow for psychology. That's abuse. That's bullying. Psychology is a fraud. It uses fallacy arguments. And so, what about MAGA? Yeah, they are the psychologists calling you the bullying names that psychologists call you. Ta-da! Section 103, 16 and 17. Therefore, speaking of the redemption of Zion, I will raise up unto the Mormons a man who should lead them like David Moses led the children of Israel out of the Exodus, as the prophecy in Revelation foretold. For Mormons are the children of Israel, and the seed of Abraham. And ye must needs be led out of bondage of the great and abominable church by power with a stretched out arm. And you'd think that would be enticing. Hey, I get at least 10% back if I just don't go to Zion. Just leave the church, you get 10% back. But if you want to go to Zion, yeah, you get everything you need and want for free. All you have to do is what you want has to contribute to Zion. So what do you want to do with your life? Share it. That's all you got to do. And you get everything you need, everything you want. No monetary system of economy, because that leads to corruption. Alrighty. The Danites. We have to go back to 9/11/1826. So we're done. I could go over Simeon, since that is a picture. It should be self-explanatory. It better be put in this video. I'm going to be pissed if it doesn't. Of course, I could end up forgetting the Israel picture too. Because I need to still make the adjustments on the picture. So, Simeon, from Genesis 29:33. And Leah conceived again and bare a son, and said, because the Lord hath heard. This is why it's God hath heard. From Google search, baby name meanings. It's a wrong translation. That I was hated. He hath therefore given me this son also. And she called his Namo Simeon. Name in Hebrew is Shem. Yeah. The son of Noah. Manoah. And yes, Shem comes from the Egyptian Ogdod story of the Egyptians, in which Amen, the sun god at noonday, is the son of the Noah character in the Ogdod story of frogs. Okay? And so, as I humiliated Nelson over Israel, prevail is not in the spelling of the Hebrew word Israel. There's I for Yah, the Hebrew God. There's SR for prince, not prevail. Remember? Shechem, the prince. You gotta have the right prince of the covenant, the true covenant, not the usurped covenant. And then L for God. And so, yeah, Nelson humiliated himself at the pulpit of conference, and to cover it up and hide it, because that's Lucifer's plan of happiness, the manuals have all been changed to say, yep, Israel, let God prevail. And it's in the footnotes. Yeah, why? Wait a minute, it's not a Hebrew. Avraham Gileadi put a Hebrew there. The church said no. And put the IE. Was not Avraham Gileadi. God, they did not approve of his footnote. They purposely changed it so that all these decades later, Nelson gets up at the pulpit of conference and botches it. And they told us, when I was a part of the revision, repeated it over and over again, do not put your own opinions in the footnotes, because we don't want a president of the church to get up at the pulpit of conference and say your opinion. I was in your midst, and they deleted a whole bunch of scriptures for Deuteronomy 18:15. And so you'll only see the two scriptures that are currently in Deuteronomy 18:50 from 1981. 1979, technically, and no guide to the scriptures to replace the TGs that were there. You can thank Gaunt for that one, David. It's Jesus! No, it's not. So So Simeon has the name in it. SM, Shem, same spelling. That's where it exposes that herd is a mistranslation. Because in herd, it's name with the added, at the end, universal symbol of the sun. So it's not herd. They are purposely covering this up with a mistranslation. And yes, even the Jews from 800 to 1000 that created the biblical Hebrew text with the Christian Constantine corruptions are covering it up and hiding it too. And so, like Joseph Smith said in the King Follett sermon, the biblical Hebrew text is also wrong. Thus, you got to go back to Paleo-Hebrew to learn. And so there's the N at the end. Remember what that is? King. Sun King. Name of the Sun King is Simeon. And it's technically a guttural, but I don't do gutturals, but that's biblical Hebrew, not Paleo-Hebrew, which comes from, or is connected with Paleo-Greek through Phoenician. Visionary. And so yeah, I put the Gardner's sign list connections to each letter. So the water symbol, the S, comes from N35, the water symbol. The Gardner's sign lists are the hieroglyphs, but the hieroglyphs have a hieratic linear script for each one of those. And so that's what's being referred to, in case you didn't know. And so yes, that's a water symbol. That's easy picture matching. And then the M, hey, there's that water symbol, but there's a J stroke for human. Thus, high priest. And so yes, you will see that in Gardner's sign list for A6, he talks about it as cleansing, purifying, that type of thing. So I refer you to Alma. Let's see, is it 12 or 13? Nope. 12 is the beliefs, words, thoughts, works. But there's no beliefs in here, Bruce. You knew. Right, Bruce? Your beliefs, you'll be judged for them. I will know no better now that I am a fraud. In the coming days I'll die, and I will reign in hell over Lucifer. So 13, men are called as high priests. And so yeah, you read through that, and righteousness and prepared from the foundation. You're supposed to be chosen as a high priest, not because you're the relative of the state president, or you reached a certain age where you just become a high priest. Yeah, with Nelson's doing away of the high priest group, which Joseph had a high priest quorum, now if you get old, you're still in the elders quorum. If you've never become a high priest, you remain an elder in the elders quorum. He had done away with the high priest quorum. And Mormon priesthood holders were confused on this. They didn't realize what Nelson had done. He had denied you exaltation in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom, so that only those who become leaders will become high priests and are worthy of the 10 child bride virgins for polygamy to be exalted in the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. So, yep, here we go. The Danite version. And you still want to be Mormon. There's nothing I can say that'll convince you to leave, huh? You're dead set. Nobody's going to change your beliefs, you anti-Mormon, anti-Christ, Cora whore, apostate, Travis. I'm not the one raping women. You are. Dear God, there's a lot of it in the news here in Utah. So, 9/11/1826. Joseph Smith Sr. had really enjoyed learning about Jewish Kabbalah in Vermont with the New Israelites. Had no interest in joining the church, did not become a polygamist, plural spiritual wifery, that Nathaniel Wood was practicing as a membership ritual. Joseph was just there to learn Jewish Kabbalah. And you can see that he was learning Jewish Kabbalah because he starts naming sons after the Bible stories. Joseph. You also know from the naming of Hiram that he was also a Yorkite Freemason. And in 1818, 2 years after he arrived in Palmyra, he became a Master Mason of the Lodge of Canandaigua, New York, because he had shown that he was ready to handle his own lodge, to be a Master Mason of it. And that's only the third rank, it's not the highest rank, in the York Rites. York Rites' highest rank is the Knights Templar. You know, with the Egyptian gold treasure plates coming to America and placing them in southern Illinois, where X would mark the spot for Zion in the latter days. That Knights Templar. Dan Brown was so close, but he's Catholic, and he has to make sure the Catholic Pope is appeased somewhat. Wasn't too appeased with Angels and Demons, with the original book. So that had to be changed, and now it is. And I don't think I can find the original book anymore, which kind of pisses me off, because I had the original book before the church treated me like Joseph of Egypt to fulfill prophecy. Dad, he threw everything of my life away. Only a few stuff remained. God, my mother, she betrayed me too. But she's supposed to, because her name is Judy. The Judas of females of prophecy. Which, yeah, Esau's wife. Great and abominable church, Judith. And so, everything would have been normal, nothing else would have happened. Smiths would have lived their lives, tried to make the farm work, make everything prosperous as best he can. He had struggled in Vermont, and that's why he came to Palmyra to start anew, and then became a Master Mason of the Lodge of Canandaigua, and could have done well, but there's something happened. A man by the name of William Morgan came to Western New York. He had learned from the War of 1812 that the Illuminati had infiltrated the Scottish Rites Freemasonry for the sole purpose of overthrowing the United States of America. They were going to do it back then, and then do a collapsing of the government in the latter days, using the biblical astronomy dates from prophecy and Revelation to destroy America. Because Christians are blinded well enough that they would never know of their plot. because they think it's all literal history. So he was looking for allies to defend America. And in Batavia, he found David Miller of the press out there, the Batavian Press, who said, let's publish a book. I'll front you the money, and your wife and kids can stay in Batavia, but you'll have to go somewhere else to work on the book, just in case you get caught, for their protection and my protection as well, so that we can get this published. And so he looked around and found in Canandaigua, New York, that the master mason of that lodge took him in as a fellow brother of the York Rites Freemasonry. And they began working on the book. And after 116 pages were written, 9/11/1826 occurred. The enemy found out, and they threatened him and locked him up to warn him, don't complete the book or we will murder you. This is a warning. And so Joseph Smith Sr., as the Master Mason, secreted him up into Canada. But there was an incident in Niagara, and a dead man, Timothy Monroe, I think is the first name, was found floating in the waters with William Morgan's clothes. Because the wife came to identify the body. She had reported him missing, and with the news of the dead body in the water, she came to see if it was her husband. And sure enough, she identified the body as her husband and said, those aren't his clothes. So something happened in which it was going to expose William Morgan fleeing the country. And so when he was up in Canada, this is other stuff that's not really needed. He decided not to stay in Canada, but instead left on the east coast of America on a boat that would then sink in the ocean. He would be recovered by fishermen, taken to the Caribbean, where he would live a life as a fisherman and got remarried, started a whole new family. And one day while he was out fishing, his boat capsized. He was rescued by some others who took him and his family down to Bolivia, where he started a banana plantation and traded at the ports of York Rite Freemasonry to sell bananas in America, and became prosperous. And then a future descendant back in 2017, I think it was, when I saw it online, talked about his knowledge of it. And so yeah, there were some errors in it, but I was able to figure out what was going on. And he was saying that he thinks the church knew of all this because they had built a church buildings just down the road from the banana plantation of William Morgan's family. And it was quite a distance when I checked on the map. It wasn't close. There was another bigger banana plantation closer to the church's stuff, but nonetheless. So, yeah, I refer to you to Heber C. Kimball's Wikipedia page on Masonry. It's a little different than the actual journal that it comes from, but it's good enough to realize that Heber C. Kimball is the enemy. He lies throughout the whole thing. Not a single thing he says in there is true. Thus, because he's not telling us the truth, he reveals that he knew the truth. that he knew that Joseph Smith Sr. was the Master Mason of Canandaigua Lodge. Didn't believe that the documents were preserved by Joseph Smith Sr. as the Master Mason. He thought that they were all burned down with the temple. Nope. Joseph Smith Sr. preserved the records of him as the Master Mason and wrote, as a nom de plume, as William Morgan, a book on the 3 degrees of Masonry to the Master Mason. Guess how many pages it is? Written pages, 116. Joseph Smith Sr. was leaving you clues. And so thus, when Junior lost the 116 pages to Martin Harris stealing them to go back to his Palmyra anti-Masons committee, Junior had to be put on timeout for a whole year, while Senior had to rewrite the 116 pages, utilizing more of the Jewish Kabbalah rather than Knights Templar. Because Martin Harris got spooked and was wondering if this had something to do with 9/11/1826, which burned down the majority of the temples of the Freemasons, both York Rite and Scottish Rites in America, because of the news reporter who covered it and scared the colonists. They put the fear of Freemasonry generally into Americans. And so, yeah, he had to sacrifice Freemasonry of the York Rites to save America. And thus gave birth to the Book of Mormon and the founding of the church on 6 April 1830 with 6 sons. To counter the 5 members of the Illuminati on May 1st, 1776. So Brigham and Heber joined with the intent purpose of destroying Joseph Smith's church. Heber C. Kimball realized from the Book of Mormon that this is it. This was William Morgan's book that everybody had been looking for and couldn't find, that was taken to Sidney Rigdon out in Ohio. Major author, for a reason. And so, yes, Sidney Rigdon said, hey, I've obtained this book from the Pittsburgh press that the author had died, and so they couldn't publish the book without him, and he never paid for it. So Sidney Rigdon obtained it that way. There's nothing nefarious about it. He didn't steal it, as ex-foes Nevermose like to claim. You cannot create a premise that isn't real, isn't true, to prove that your conclusion is true. That just destroys your conclusion when you pull a stunt like that. You should know better. You left the church for a reason, but it's not so that you can do the same thing as an ex-foe. You know that spiritual witness feelings are wrong, so why are you getting spiritual witness feelings of doubt? It's a false dichotomy. Stop it. You're falling into Brigham Young's plot. Trap. You fell for it. You're attacking Joseph when you should be focused on Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball. So they joined in 1832. Heber C. Kimball had both books, William Morgan's supposed book and View of the Mormonism Unveiled. He would end up having both of them. But that wasn't, Mormonism Unveiled wasn't until 1834 when that was published. So Heber C. Kimball, he knows, he's got it all figured out. But the Smiths aren't talking. because people want to murder them. Remember? Joseph Smith Sr. puts in the 116 rewritten pages he's going to choose Junior to be the Messiah who's going to be murdered. Sure enough, he was. That must have been heartbreaking for him. He was a regular American patriot. He wasn't obsessed with Jewish Kabbalah. He wasn't obsessed with dowsing. Rocking a hat. The rods of iron that you walk over water and they cross. It's fascinating. I learned it as a kid. You take two coat hangers, metal coat hangers, fold them into an L shape. You have it loosely fitting, but not so loose that they, just hold them in your hands. And then you walk over the toilet, and yeah, they cross. It was cool. It's a kid's game. Nothing more. You can't find metals with it. You got to get a metal detector. And obviously it was not a job for him. He taught it to his kids. They're kids. That's what you do for family home evening. And you get these ex-foes who go, yeah, they're witches. Yeah, got them. They're not Christian. And so, yeah, he's just a normal dad trying to support his family, struggling in America. And so 9/11/1826 happens, and his whole life is destroyed. He knows what he has to do now. He knows about Jewish Kabbalah. He knows about the York Rites and the Knights Templar. And now he sees it's going to happen. He's now the Holy Grail. And he knows it. He is the keeper of the Holy Grail. And so, yeah, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, it's wrong. But, National Treasure also got it wrong. But Dan Brown also got it wrong. But if you knew the truth of it, then you'd see what Joseph Smith Sr. knew and understood. He knew he's got to save America, and he's got to sacrifice his sons to do it. And so Brigham and Heber were put right into the mission field. And they went right back to their hometowns where the Scottish Rites were, who are pissed and want revenge on whoever did it. And so they go back to them and say, we found them. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do an Illuminati stunt because that's who we are. You infiltrate, rise up in number, rise up in rank, coup, destroy, rise up with a new world order. Then you destroy it. In the latter days. That's what they intended to do. So they did it, didn't they? And so, yeah, they brought in the initial group of Scottish Rites Illuminati who wanted revenge. And they went on their missions. And they're telling people who are not involved, it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The Book of Mormon is another testament of Jesus Christ. We're Christian. And so I refer you to the condescending Jesus chapter. Now, the literal history Heavenly Father from outer space comes to earth in the Roman period time, rapes his daughter, abandons her with the baby, and produces Jesus. So it's okay to rape your daughter. And how is that less abominable than Christians who claim that the Holy Ghost raped Mary instead? Because the Jews makes it very clear. Jesus is not the seed of Messiah ben David. What? He's supposed to be the seed of David. It says so in the first verse. Matthew. Here's the generations. Gen comes from the word seed, egg, baby, descent. Thus, genealogy. You don't put who you spiritually witness feel as your parents. You can with the church's genealogy program. I want Mickey Mouse and Frozen to be my parents. And Michael Jackson and Jewish Holocaust victims. Yes, Michael Jackson has been baptized and had his endowments in the temple. I've seen it. It's awful. What are you doing? Stop it! And yeah, the Jewish Holocaust victims scandal in this church. Oh my hell. And yeah, like I did the video, yeah, it's not referring to baptisms for the dead by proxy. It has to do with the Egyptians and the resurrection and the insurrection, and that's what led to the insurrection resurrection video that I did. But anyway. Okay. And so, yeah, that's what they did. 1838, they had a dry run for what they're planning to do. Oh, they already did it for the latter days. Election tampering, election decertification, civil war, cooing, murdering, plundering, burning. 1838. And Joseph Smith gets framed and blamed for the whole long list of what the Danites were doing in their secret combination. Remember? And ex-foe Nevermos still to this day fall for the trap of the lies of Brigham Young and his Danites. But women were raped by Joseph, little girls. No. Everything that the Danites are accusing Joseph Smith of are what they were justifying and doing. Bullying 101. And you can't see it with MAGA? They did it to Biden. They got him out of the presidential election because of their bullying tactic 101. And now they keep going. They're escalating. Now Biden has to leave the presidency now. He can't be president anymore. If he's not going to run for president, he can't be president. He needs to leave. And what's that going to do? Oh, that'll make Kamala Harris the acting president in place of Biden. Who's going to be the vice president? Oh, nobody. Oh no, what's going to happen on January 6, 2025? If Kamala Harris wins the election? Who's going to certify it? Because there's no vice president, because she's president now. And now she's president-elect. Who's going to certify the election? Nobody. Oh, it'll have to default to the House of or the House Speaker, who's MAGA, who Trump had a little secret meeting with in Mar-a-Lago to talk about it, to decertify the election results as a backup plan in case civil war does not happen this year. See, 2024 is the backup plan to the failure of 2020. That's when it was supposed to have been. That's why January 6 happened. I warned our government in advance through suing Pharaoh in his court. But Pharaoh said no, but Bill Barr took that and said, hey, I just learned about this Insurrection Act. Let's use it on Black Lives Matter protesters. They didn't. But January 6th then happened, as I warned in that lawsuit. And so the prosecutors finally used the Insurrection Act on the insurrectionists, but not the cause. So now the 14th Amendment, Section 3, has been overthrown, as he's now running for president this year. And Mike Lee would go on to run for office for 2022's midterm elections, when he's not allowed to. 14th Amendment, Section 3. Other MAGA are not allowed to be in office. We've got a coup going on, just like the Danites caused in 1838. Because at that election polling station, was it Stewart? It was Stewart's. Stewart's third great grandfather gets punched first. Now the Mormon War, Wikipedia says that Mormons were not allowed to vote. That's not true. They came to overthrow the election. Because on the ballot was a guy who wanted to develop the land of Abominable. But Abominable was the secret combination headquarters of the Danites. It's their land. But they can't say it's their land, because then people would know. And so here you got this guy running for office in 1838 saying, hey, let's develop the land up here in this area, which is the secret headquarters of the Danites. And Benjamin Franklin Johnson exposes all this, but the church covers it up and leaves certain things out to make it faith-promoting, so that you have to be loyal to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints instead of Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon is Jewish. And so, yes, the first punch knocked down Chris Stewart's third great grandfather to the ground, and thus began the war. And so, in the midst of that arguing, before the first punch heard round the United States began, one of the Danites yelled out, "We are the Danites!" And thus it began. Their secret code name was exposed. So, no, any Mormon apologist who claims that the Danites are gone, they don't exist anymore, lies, 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 lies. And I'm willing to bet you'll find that he is a third great grandson of a Danite at that war. And I just did John Murdoch and the 3-hour tour thing also, because I was doing some research on him, as he's the third great grandfather of Leanne Murdoch, who I passed up, and thus my life was ruined. But yeah, that was a pivotal moment in my life, and because I ran away and hid from her when I shouldn't have, I ended up marrying Stephanie and going to Canada and the University of Lethbridge and learning biblical Hebrew and anthropology of the ancient Middle East with Thomas Robinson, who also taught me Greek, who wanted me to do the CD-ROM version for his Mastering Greek that you can still get on Amazon to this day. That would have been me, but I had graduated. That was the final class I needed to graduate, with a dual bachelor's with a minor, because the guidance counselor had no clue that it's anthropology of the ancient Middle East. She called it Bible studies. And ancient languages, which biblical Hebrew is Dark Age, if not, well, yeah, it's still Dark Age. Middle Ages doesn't really begin until the 13th, 14th century. And then, and so Greek is classical, and Latin also is classical. And so, yeah, she didn't know, but it doesn't matter, I didn't care. And also philosophy of science, which is important to understand because it's not philosophy as a psychological field, as everybody wants it to be. Oh, it's just your opinion, you're just philosophizing. It's the wisdom of men. No, it was Socratic methodology for logic. That science. Forensic investigation. That's why I was able to go to the crime scene of Carthage jail and expose it. When Spencer W. Kimball, grandson of Heber C. Kimball, tried to cover up the evidence. Tampering with the crime scene, naughty naughty. Bad boys, what you gonna do? Compromise the government so that you can coup it. So, yeah. Brigham Young murdered Joseph Smith. That's what happened in the end there. Had John Taylor and Willard Richards be the backup to make sure it happened. So after Joseph Smith used the six-shooter to shoot out the mob, chase them out of the building, that's when the backup kicked in. John Taylor rushed Hiram to get my third great-grandfather's single shot from him, and it ended up going up into his chin. Joseph saw it after chasing out the mob, sees John Taylor standing over the felled body of his brother Hiram, and then boom, 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 the remaining 3 balls and into John Taylor. John Taylor then goes under the bed. Joseph goes in, mourns over his brother. Willard Richards comes out from the corner, shoots him in the back, takes his body, dumps it out the window. The mob then boom, 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 because it's rifles, not pistols. That's why they left the rifles outside, because they're too long. And so, yeah, the whole claim that they rushed the door and the rifles were through the door and bullets flying everywhere. No. 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 Lies to cover up what actually happened. And so, yeah, I had a person comment about John Taylor's scripture in our Doctrine and Covenants, Brigham's Doctrine and Covenants, that Joseph Smith is second only to Jesus Christ. No, he's Messiah ben Joseph. There is no Jesus. But anyway, and so after that, Samuel is poisoned to death to keep him from being the top candidate for the successor. They purposely do not follow Section 107, verse 22, the process for succeeding Joseph Smith. So the church died with Joseph. The keys died with Joseph. Brigham Young only had the keys to preach the Jewish Book of Mormon and baptize. That's it. But because of what happened with the original quorums before 1838, people were getting confused and getting put into second quorums. And so Joseph, before 1838, came out and said, okay, I have to assign you to the quorum, then the quorum can then ordain you and set you apart. And so that change was made before 1838. So thus, the 12 at the time of Joseph's death, once they all die, that's the end of the quorum of the 12 keys. Peter, James, and John to preach the Jewish Book of Mormon and baptize. And so during the Danite period, they had Mormons throughout the United States getting baptized, but they began to go overseas to England and Wales. And so when Brigham Young took over his branch off, not authorized, just said, I'm starting my own church. We're going to call it the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints because we've been doing that. Thus, those who were converted by his Danites, who knew the name to be the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, only knew that Brigham Young would be the leader. That was whole part of Brigham Young's plot, to sabotage Joseph and steal the Mormons, hold them in bondage. And so his 1844 Doctrine and Covenants included a forged document of 1838 claiming that priestcraft and an extortion racket and what would become sex trafficking and human trafficking was now all of a sudden claimed to be by Joseph. Section 119. Violating the Book of Mormon in so many ways. I did that video not too long ago again. And so he tried to run the church, but he was preparing to flee the country again. Coward. He always kept fleeing the country. He fled the country to Europe for his European tour. For example, after the War of 1838, while Joseph got out of Liberty Jail, Brigham Young then fled the country. After the 19 July 1840, Brigham Young fled the country. He knows what Joseph knows. Joseph Smith knows it was Brigham Young. He's exposing it to the Mormons. So Brigham Young had to flee, along with his 12. And so, yeah, those, and that the ship that the Church News again covered, yeah, that was set up in advance to go to California, because Brigham Young was going to claim the Mexican territory as his own, to create an army, a kingdom, to rise up, the Illuminati thing, to go up against the United States in the latter days. And so then 1846, in January, he anoints himself as king in the Nauvoo temple with the inverted pentagrams that he put on it. And it had to be in secret. It's a secret combination. They also kept a book of sealings of the polygamy. It's a secret combination book. And so, despite the fake claims that Joseph Smith was doing it, they were the ones who finally did it in 1843. Before that, they were having secret sex with gullible Mormon women, raping them, like Dinah. Danites. And so, yeah, they were officially sealed to the guys that were raping them, and the children to Willard Richards, the two sisters who were 14 and 16 years of age. Yeah, they blamed Joseph for what they did, so that they can get away with it and justify it. But it was all in secret. John C. Bennett got exposed, and Joseph Smith excommunicated him, because it's not to happen. Only monogamy. And Exfo Nevermost don't catch on. They don't figure it out. And so, yeah, the ledger of the sealings of polygamy was the secret combination thing kept in 1846. And so then 6th of April comes along, and he's not dedicating the temple. It's all built. It's all ready to go. And Brigham Young refuses to dedicate it. So Mormons are pissed and leave. This can't be the true church if you're not going to dedicate the Nauvoo temple with the inverted pentagram of Lucifer on the 6th of April, 1830. Or the 6th of April, 1846. The anniversary. And instead, he waits for May 1st, the anniversary of the Illuminati, with the keystone or the inverted pentagram as their symbol. And John C. Bennett, by the way, after he gets excommunicated, forms his own Halcyon Order of the Illuminati. He's a Danite. That's what they do. That's who they are. So Albert Pike, sure enough, Illuminati, Scottish Rites, together as one, talking about the latter days when they destroy Christianity and rise up with the doctrines of Lucifer. Who are the doctrines of Lucifer? Taking away agency, putting people into bondage, murder, death penalties, blood atonements, polygamy, sex trafficking, tithing, extortion racket. Yeah, he's talking about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints of Brigham Young. The doctrines of Lucifer will rise up, and so the way to perfection, as Thomas B. Marsh exposed in his affidavit. The Danites told me they're going to coup America and then the world in the latter days. So the way to perfection, Joseph Smith Sr., Fielding Smith Sr., Hiram's son, says, yeah, this is what we're doing, because he got indoctrinated by Heber C. Kimball, who took Hiram's wife and daughters with him because they had to go to fulfill the prophecy of Messiah ben David Moses in the latter days. And so only the Danites of the Vanguard Company came with Brigham Young in the first batch. And those who were rich and gullible, like John Murdoch, he also came with that first group. Only the rich. The poor stayed behind. Brigham Young didn't want the poor. And thus the rich were the ones from England who came on the boat to California. Only the rich. He doesn't want anything to do with the poor. Still to this day, Utah wants nothing to do with the poor. So isn't it convenient that the Supreme Court finally made poverty and homelessness illegal? Just recently. Was it this month? Or was it last month? Time seems to fly as if it's a dream. And then he came to the valley, had to murder people to claim the land as his, the native inhabitants. And then the next year in 1848, the United States took over the land because Mexico seceded the territory. The United States didn't acknowledge Brigham Young claiming the land, except that they sent him a letter saying, hey, you can be the first governor of the territory of Utah. Oh? Mexico seceded, you say? This is my kingdom. And so thus the war against the United States began, as the United States had to send in the military to prevent the Salt Lake Temple from being built with the inverted pentagram of Lucifer on the keystone of the doors of the temple, the headquarters temple. And so, now that the United States had taken away his kingdom in 1839, the very next year, Brigham Young incorporated the Perpetual Immigration Fund of human trafficking, which also includes sex trafficking for adults and children, in which Mormons had to pay into it to have the funding for it, and then bring the poor Mormons to the valley. That's what that was used for. Thus, pioneer days of 47. No, that's the poor. And yet they won't talk about the Vanguard Company of the rich. It's always about the poor pioneers who came over on the days of 47. God, they purposely lie to you all these years, misinform you about real history. revisionist history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They have never told us the truth about history, despite all the revisionist histories they keep revising. They will not get it right. They now have the Joseph Smith Papers, which is the only authoritative source, and they still won't use it at the pulpit of conference. They will not correct our scriptures. And so thus I put on my academia page the complete works of Joseph Smith, the first draft. It's got to be cleaned up, but nonetheless. That's Joseph's scriptures. No polygamy. No section 119. No Adam-on-Diamond. No Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so, 1852, right? Or was it 51? I think 52. You've now got some poor people who are now filling up the valley. And so they aren't a part of the polygamy of the secret combination of the Danites. They've already been practicing it the whole time. And so Brigham Young gets up and says Adam is our heavenly father, and that he was a polygamist. Brought Eve, one of his wives, into the Garden of Eden, baby. Don't you know that you drive me crazy? And orders all Mormons to practice polygamy, which is still a crime in the United States of America. He's given the middle finger to the United States for taking over his kingdom. And in so doing, the new Mormons are going, oh, okay, Joseph Smith did it. I guess we have to do it. And so they then go, well, wait a minute. The Mormons already here, the Danites, already have polygamous wives. They're not single. All you single ladies, all you single ladies, oh, 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 oh. There are none. And so Brigham Young tells them, go on a mission and get them. But your Danites, who already have the polygamous wives, are recruiting the women for more wives for them. Sucks to be you. You can't go to the celestial kingdom unless you have a polygamous wife. He hates the poor. And so, yeah, problems have ensued. But nonetheless, 1887, after Brigham Young came out with the new Doctrine and Covenants the year before he died, which included section 132, and tried to cover it up with section 131 gutted, and also tried to cover it up with a legitimate Joseph Smith document, section 85, which was a letter to W.W. Phelps that was pre Doctrine and Covenants 1835. But Joseph, it was a letter, and so that's why it didn't get published in the Doctrine and Covenants by Joseph. But it needs to, because that caused a big firestorm in Brigham Young's church after he died. And they finally began to read the new doctrines that were put in his Doctrine and Covenants the year before he died. And so, yeah, under John Taylor, the United States, 1887, Edmunds Tucker Act gets passed. No more polygamy and tithing for the church, because tithing turns polygamy into sex trafficking. And with the Perpetual Immigration Fund, tithing made that human trafficking. And that's what the United States was trying to shut down, as the trafficking of the church. But you'll still hear Oakes doing his world tour about how the United States are bullies, denying them religious freedom to practice child bride polygamy. They're setting it all up. 2019, Nelson restores polygamy. How many of the Mormons are obeying it? None. And so, yeah, the church sees Mormons as wicked. They will murder the Mormons to rise up from the ashes with their new world order of Albert Pike. And so that's why the church has been collecting the tithing money since Heber J. Grant reincorporated a brand new church called the corporation of the president. And in those articles of incorporation, he says that the corporation is to use Mormons of Brigham Young's Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as the cash cows for the corporation of the president, section 119. It's a crime, and yet they got incorporated because they now have Mormons in place in Utah by then to kick out Americans, to restore their kingdom. This is all part of the plot. And so 9/11/1857, Senator Lee's third great grandfather, John D. Lee, the murderer of women and children, because Brigham Young had scattered the Mormons north and south to create a wall to keep Americans out. It's his land. And so thus, the actual pioneers of Americans to resettle in the new land that was now American soil were attacked by the Mormons for that reason. This is our land, it isn't your land. And so the United States had to shut them down. If you're going to be in America, you have to be American. You can't coup America. And so, yeah, the government has now been couped. The church is getting away with their crimes and coup of America, working with a secret combination of the Confederates and other branch-offs from that original Illuminati Scottish Rites group. And I've done the chain. Those Scottish Rites who left went down to the south to become the Confederates, and thus the Civil War, to do the coup that Brigham Young failed to do, getting Joseph Smith into the presidency. Joseph Smith was supposed to be the Abraham Lincoln guy. And then Brigham Young, with his Council for National Policy, or not council, that's the current secret combination, his Council of 50, that was his secret government to coup America with Joseph Smith becoming president. So once he got into the valley here, there was no need for the Council of 50 anymore. He still kept it for a little while, but yeah, it eventually got shut down as it was realizing that plan was a failure. And so, yeah, a lot of other stuff were stopped by Brigham because they're no longer needed. And so now they were transitioning to make money. Money is power. Money buys things. Money takes away the honor and integrity of others who can be bought with money. And so Mormons were to be the cash cows for this now. And so that's what the church was doing. And so it wasn't until much later that the church realized we need to also obtain the land around the world and in the United States, not just collect money. And so then they started developing more and more temples, and under Hinckley the small temples get started to obtain more land quicker. And so that when the day finally comes, those who own the land and have the money have the power and rule the world. That's the whole plot. To overthrow the governments of the world and reign supreme. And so as much as evangelicals think that they're putting Trump in to give them the kingdom of Jesus, oh my God, suckers and losers all, born every minute. No, it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that's behind everything. In 1981, they formed the Council for National Policy. They had their representative, Cleon Skousen, which is why Cleon Skousen never became a member of the 70. And then, and so Reagan then was convinced to start tinkle-down economics, where corporations get funded money from taxpayers with the intention that it go down to the employees and thus to the people through the better quality, better pricing of the products. Nope. Stayed at the top. And they peed on everybody down. That's why it's called peon. From the Brits. and so yeah, that's why all these products suck. When we should be further advanced than we are, but because of a monetary system of economy and keeping the profits high, we don't have the technologies that we could have, and thus China and other nations are surpassing us on technologies as a result. And we're needing to overthrow the government, so we've got to diminish science, and religion is doing that part to overthrow science with religion. And psychology that we took in from Nazi Germany are thanking their American liberators by using fallacy arguments to create a false dichotomy of liberal versus conservative rather than a constitutional republic to overthrow the nation as well and overthrow science. And so the church is utilizing psychology to overthrow science in BYUs and in the state of Utah, which is run by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so now you're seeing that these psychologists are criminal. They're not good people. They're being given the false word, and we're seeing the fruits of that as they're now going to prison. Psychology is a fraud, and nobody believes it. And so yes, the conservative bullies use the psychological bullying, name-calling on other people to victimize them. And the Democrat liberals use the psychological bullying to say, you need help from a psychologist. To be bullied, to be a cash cow for psychology. So both of them are evil parties. And so, yeah, I could do the whole thing with racism, sexism, bigotry, the poor, etc., on down the line of how they are different. And that's why it's pro-life versus pro-choice. It's stupid. 14th Amendment, Section 1. Boom, there it is. Women didn't follow it. They allowed the conservatives to get a foothold, and now it's gone. Your rights are gone. The 14th Amendment, Section 1 is overturned. America has been cooed. And now you're given false hope by Kamala Harris and her Harris train of positive, happy feelings that now we're going to get our rights back. No, you lost them. They're gone. You didn't do what was necessary to save them when you were given the opportunity to save them. You needed to have the Insurrection Act, and you didn't do it. And so why are you believing that Harris is going to get your rights back? She won't do the Insurrection Act. Biden's not doing it. Harris won't do it. She's soft on crime. She lets death penalties go free. And she's an anti-Semite. Women are just being played. You are not going to be free. There's going to be bloodbath, Civil War II, 2024. And so, yeah, this is a psychological manipulation to make you think that everything's going to be fixed with this election as long as you vote and pay for Harris. No! It's the same strategy of evil. And you're falling for it. So, utter destruction. Well done, Mormons. You failed. So yeah, you're being betrayed by the church. And there, I got the comment from a Mormon who denied, saying, I am willing to die if this church gets their kingdom. Oh my God. You don't want Zion, do you? There will be no death in Zion. It'll be the only place with peace, safety, and refuge. And you want to die to preserve bondage, trafficking, and death? Dear God, what a bunch of losers. Stop drinking the Kool-Aid. So yeah, there's more to it, obviously, but that's a summation. And so yeah, the church has said, stay where you are. do not gather. So they don't have the keys of gathering anyway. But they no longer have the keys of missionary work of Peter, James, and John. Because after the last one died, which was Wilford Woodruff, wasn't it, when I did that video? That was it. They are not allowed to call in new elders to be missionaries. They have no authority for anything anymore. No keys whatsoever. They're all gone. So no patriarch, no temple, no president, no conferences, no missionary work, no relief society, nothing. They have no keys whatsoever. And so they lie to you, saying, oh yeah, we get revelation all the time on how to run business and commit crimes and steal. That's their revelation. Crime. Business. It's just business, it's not personal. It kind of is personal. No, it's not business, or it's not personal, it's political. No, it is. It's supposed to be a constitutional republic. You need to follow it so that the people can prosper. You're not following the constitutional republic, therefore you're the enemy. Yeah, easy breezy cover girl, I'm going to be his Maybelline. And so yeah, that's why I do my videos. That's why the prerequisites are in, so that you can understand if you're brand new, because YouTube finally allowed you in. YouTube likewise is doing the same tactic of the enemy. Sexually abusing women. Banning hundreds of channels of women for being women. They're just women. Leave them alone. This is YouTube, not corporate tube. Not Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints tube. Community guidelines are crap. They are a violation of the constitutional republic and the laws and precedents thereof. Women are not evil by nature. They are not porn. Back off, YouTube. New CEO. Bleep you. And so yes, that's why they've been hiding my channel from the majority of the people. My #1 video showing that I am a prophet, seer, revelator, and translator. Boom! Shut me down so that the church can reign supreme and get their kingdom of Lucifer back on the earth. You were warned. It was in the scriptures. And you're just couch potatoes, lazy learners, and lax disciples. So now we're all going to be destroyed. So the 12 apostles are out there doing their thing, getting in trouble too. How are you guys doing? Are you listening? It's a 2.5 hour video. My hell. This did not intend to be a 2.5 hour video. I keep wanting to do shorter videos and it just can't be done. There's just too much to explain. So, alrighty, let's make sure I get these pictures in. So yeah, the church has to fall. The Book of Mormon prophecy is this year, 9th of Av, August 13th. We'll see if it happens. It better happen. I'm doing a whole big campaign with the pictures that I made for it. Mormons won't leave otherwise.